Alright, so we fitted the mains lead, done all the work underneath. I'm just cleaning off the doghouse and the valve covers. Just a bit of surface corrosion and smoke residue on them, just making them nice and shiny with the brush bristle blush. And we'll do the same with the doghouse as well. So just showing you there, that's one I've polished up a little bit, and that's the state they were in before. Probably looks a bit overexposed there, that's more like it. There we go. So yeah, you can just see all the residue on there and it feels rough, whereas that one's nice and smooth. So just wrapping this thing up. It took a bit longer than expected. There was just a lot of cleaning, a lot of rerouting, replacing wires, a bit of experimentation with values and some tube rolling, testing the existing valves. They were off by like 20% dissipation. We're sitting at about 60% at the moment with a new pair of tongue soles, and everything's happy. There was 2 valves I could reuse, so that was the phase inverter and the stage before it, whereas the 2 valves for each side of the preamp were microphonic, and just the leads were really corroded. I scraped it back a bit and it sort of worked, but a little bit of movement, it would crack and pop and stuff. So a pair of new J's in the front end there, two 12AX7s. So we've done all the bypass caps, replaced all of them with Nichicons, and we've got a new phase inverter network here, so that's all different. That's the AA864 style. We've had to change the output, the speaker polarity on the jacks, so we didn't get positive feedback from the negative feedback, because we've changed the nature of where the feedback feeds into the phase inverter. A few value changes. So we've got the new bias set up down here. That's the existing pot which we took out, gave a clean, replaced the carbon comp resistor. There was a tag strip here with just 1 eyelet on it. I replaced that with a 2 eyelet one. There was already a tag strip there anyway, so it's not like we've added anything crazy. We've just put one with 3 terminals instead of 2 terminals, the ground and the terminal that was being used. Got a new screen grid wire going off to the screen grid there. We've removed the grounding from the transformer hardware, and we've just soldered it to the chassis in that area. This is actually running at the moment, so I'll be careful. We've got new screen grid resistors. They were heavily drifted, and carbon comps, which aren't great anyway, so these are 5 watters now, so you can crank it well up in overdrive in the output stage and not be worried about over dissipating on the screens. We've got our flyback diodes there, which are actually a convenient place to attach probes for bias measurement and plate voltage measurement, etc. I've used 1 lead off the ground switch for a terminal to connect the incoming neutral to the neutral connection of the transformer. We've got the hot wire disappears to the fuse first, from the fuse tip first to the fuse ring, which then goes to the switch, which then goes to the transformer. We've terminated the unused primaries on here by folding them over and putting heat shrink on them and then bundling them together neatly. We've redone the heater terminals, and we've put some new fusible 1/2 watt 100 ohm resistors for heater balancing, so if you ever do get a heater to whatever short, you'll fuse those resistors instead of burning the transformer through the center tap. It's not as much of a consideration in this amp because it doesn't have a cathode follower, or it's not cathode biased. That's some of the places that can occur, but safety first. Got some washers here on the transformer, slightly oversized washers. We've got lock nuts under there, stainless star washers, and the bolts, the nut on the outside of that. Cleaned the pots, redid some connections on the pots because it had that green crud coming out. Replaced the speaker jack. The list goes on. Cleaned all the sockets are okay, the valve sockets. Cleaned the board in several areas to get rid of surface crap that was conductive. Replaced the the grid wire for the coming from the volume pot to V1B. So now it's got coax. So that's a bit quieter midway in the volume. There's a bit of hum now. That's completely gone. I don't know. I've lost count. This wiring that they use is pretty crappy. It's got a PVC jacket and then it's got like a clear sheath over it. So yeah, that's not ideal. So let's crank her up and have a listen. First we'll go through the bass channel, even though it's a guitar through a guitar cab. I'll get a bass in a minute and try it through a bass cab. First we'll just listen to the background noise level. Turn the guitar volume down. Bit of a scratchiness on the pot there. It cleans up when you use it and there's no DC on it. I'm just hoping because it's sat so long without use that it'll come good being used for a while, otherwise we'll replace it down the road, but it's not debilitating. The other thing is when you turn it real fast it's more obvious, but you got to bear in mind when the knob's not on there you're turning it faster because you're twisting the little shaft between your fingers. When the actual knob's on there you tend to move it a bit slower and it's less noticeable. Almost can't hear it at all there. So I'll set the volume. It's pretty touchy. I probably could have used some lower gain preamp valves. We'll put everything around noon except for the volume. So very dark as you'd expect. Let's max them out. Gets a bit more middly. Turn the deep off. There's a bit of a pop there. Clean the switch a bit, but it's kind of falling apart. I think we've got to replace the switches in the future too. Amps this old, like almost everything's starting to fail, especially the cheap slider switches. And they're not the easiest to find either. So it sounds pretty boxy there, but it's kind of cool for an overdrive tone. If you hear some of the great overdrive tones when you knock the gain back, they actually sound pretty terrible. So you got to sort of tailor the voicing to suit overdrive. Now this thing, when you push it hard, it breaks up nicely. It's sort of like a creamy overdrive. It's not bitey like a Marshall, but it's not the typical Fender flub. It's kind of nice and level and smooth on the top end. If we go to a single coil, the neck and middle. So a bit dark for that, but it's good for bridge rhythm work. Let's crank the treble, bring the bass down, sorry, leave the treble full. Crank that right up. Turn that down, go on to the normal channel. Try it clean first. So that's bright switch turned off, everything about midway. Turn the bright switch on. Bring the treble up a bit. So when the treble is boosted too much, and this happens to a lot of Fender amps because they're sort of set for a fair bit of bottom end throughout the architecture of the amp. When you crank the treble up too much, you get distortion of the treble, but you get subsonic products of the distortion. Not subsonic, subharmonic. So that can make the distortion a little bit unpleasant. You can hear some other sort of stuff going on in the bottom there, but if you pull the bass back, bring the treble down a bit too, that tends to go away and then you can push the amp harder. usable overdrive tone just out of a non-master volume Bassman amp, and that's going into a 16 ohm at the moment, so a bit of a mismatch on the output stage, so it's not putting out full power, but it was into the dummy load, so we know everything's healthy. Alright champions, let's have a quick listen. We're mic'd up with a SM57. It's going through an Eminence Delta Light 1x12 cab. Let's see how we go. Alright, just for shits and giggles, we'll go with some close mic guitar stuff as well. We've got the Celestion G12T75 under the bench. That's the test cabinet, 16 ohm open back, SM57 again. See how she goes. So I don't know, this one was a little bit harder than it should have been. It took a bit longer. There's also dealing with the shop. I'm of two minds if having a shop was the smartest move, because I get distracted and I like to really focus on a job. So I don't know. We'll see how we go. Maybe I need an assistant or something. Anywho, thanks for watching, champions. I'll get back to you with some more carnage soon. You probably won't see this for a couple of weeks after I've recorded it, because I just don't have time to edit videos. But you know, we do them in big bursts, and hopefully I'll get COVID soon so I can sit at home and edit videos. Joking, of course. So take it easy. See you on the next one.